I must admit that I was sincerely not expecting at all to be analyzing two trailers back to back. But on this case, on this one trailer, I guarantee you that I will enjoy it thoroughly. Hello everybody, it's the Discount Russian here, and today we are analyzing the lore behind the newest Elden Ring trailer, the story trailer, the cinematic trailer for the Shadow of the Erdtree. First of all, I need to put a disclaimer. I'm not going to be reacting to the video per se. I have already watched it. I have already thought of my points that I want to make throughout this video. So this is just going to be an analysis of what is actually happening throughout the trailer. Got out of the way, let us begin. And to start off, we have Marika herself.
An affair from which gold arose. And so too was Shadow born. What followed was a war unseen.
This is something that I feel like I need to point out, is that this is not Miquella. The trailer starts with a narrator, a female narrator, speaking about Miquella the good, Miquella the benevolent, but it's important to say that this is not Miquella. It would be easy to confuse this for Miquella. The golden hair, the feminine form of its body, but the truth is, this is the body of an adult. This is Marika. This is representing her ascension to godhood, or perhaps the start of her bargain with the golden will, the greater will, to begin the golden order. This might be the start of her crusade, the start of her conquering of the lands between. This is it. This is the birth of the golden order. These lines that she's holding is the Elden Ring itself, or at least what would eventually become the form of the Elden Ring. It still does not have the form of a rune yet, because the Elden Ring, in its essence, a rune, a really powerful rune that represents the life, everything that is encompassed within the lands between. And this might be the primordial form of it, something very closely resembling, very closely related to the crucible of life. Going back to the rise of gold, as it's mentioned through the trailer, it's mentioned that it was an affair, a seduction, a betrayal. That to me pictures the fact that the Golden Order may have been a very hypocritical ideology. Why do I say this? Because the Golden Order is based on the tenets of gold. But gold comes from the crucible. Like mentioned by Selene herself, gold is the color and essence, the strength, the power that is emitted from life itself, the very crucible of life. But both the crucible of life and the Golden Order, conducted by the greater will, they clash with one another in certain aspects. Or it's quite simple to see the crucible as not life itself. It's not what propagates life. It's not what brings life. It's the strength that life emits. That's what the crucible is. The crucible in Elden Ring and in the lands between, it represents evolution. And evolution is highly competitive, and it can be highly chaotic, constantly changing, and that goes completely against the idea of perfection from the Golden Order. And I like to see this new perspective on Marika, because I always imagined her as this ruler that was in her early years, in her early tenure as a sovereign. I imagined her being incredibly ambitious, incredibly smart, and quite vicious in her campaigns, in her will to subjugate and impose the Golden Order throughout the lands between. The war against the giants, for example, her conquest for the Elden Ring itself, the conquest of the lands between. She was incredibly ambitious for a ruler. She annihilated the giants of which had a different god than her, one that could be a challenge, and one that could burn the very Erdtree, the very symbol of her might. Even sent Maliketh himself in order to deal with the Gloam-eyed Queen. Maliketh was her most powerful and most skilled enforcer, her personal champion, and she sent him in a relentless crusade to deal with the Glowmite Queen, an Imperium that at the time could have been a challenge and a threat to her sovereignty and her Golden Order. We do not know much about the Glowmite Queen, but it's important for me, at very least in this video, to put into context that Marika, was more than willing to send out her mightiest of champions, her most deadly of agents, to deal and defeat a potential rival to her era. She wanted that godhood. She wanted that sovereignty. She is a ruler. She plays to win. That's something important that I feel like it wasn't portrayed very much throughout our playthrough of the game. She is mostly portrayed as this leader that has grown delusioned from her own ideals of the Golden Order, the greater will, the power that she has been given, and how it manipulated her people and how it led to the death of her son, her favorite son, Godwin. In this trailer, I enjoy it because it put into perspective some of her hypocrisies as well. Like I said, the Golden Order is a very hypocritical ideology because it draws power from the Crucible, it draws power from life, since it is the power of gold. But at the same time, it renounces the Crucible itself. And this is important to put into perspective when analyzing this trailer. It's something that I found it incredibly interesting to read and see, to witness in a trailer, and probably witness more of it in the game, in the DLC. I enjoy to have this perspective that Marika may not have been all the time this malevolent ruler, because she obviously didn't. She slaughtered the Glowmite Queen. She took away their power of death. She genocided the giants. Even Godfrey, in order to feed her schemes, she banished him away from the lands between in order for them to come back as an even more powerful army, an even more powerful force. Started a really long and arduous conflict with the Carrion royal family. She was an ambitious ruler. She sought sovereignty. She sought absolute control. That's the will of the Golden Order, of the greater will, and she was the god of this era. And I like to see that in her character here, full of ambition, holding what would eventually be the Elden Ring itself, or the beginning of what would allow her to build the Elden Ring itself. And that ambition caused the creation of Shadow, something that unfortunately she had to deal with first before conquering the lands between, apparently.
One that could never be put to song. A purge without grace or honor. The tyranny of Mesmer's flame.
Here in this section of the trailer, we immediately realize, it's immediately told to us that something had to be done, that a war eventually started from Shadow, a war that would never be sung, a war that would be maintained in the veils of shadows throughout the eternity. And this conflict, this war, might have been the first conflict ever fought in the name of the Golden Order, in the name of the Golden Will, in the name of Marika's new Golden Age. And it was likely fought as a means to purge the creatures of the Crucible, those blessed by the Crucible, who today in the lands between are viewed with contempt. They are slaves, they were conquered, they do not have the rights as the people of the lands between, solely because they were blessed by the Crucible of life. This war served that purpose. This war was likely the very first conflict that the Golden Order inflicted upon someone or something, or perhaps even a whole kingdom of the Crucible creatures, of those blessed by the Crucible. And the war had to be maintained in shadows because of how hypocritical that war was. The golden tenets comes from life. Their ideologies comes from the balance of life, but the life is the Crucible. The Crucible comes from life as well. And to admit that life could be so chaotic would be incredibly hypocritical for the ideals of gold. So this war was forced to be shadowed, was forced to be veiled in secrecy so that the sovereignty of America, of the Golden Order, be maintained. And the enforcer that she chose was Mesmer himself. He was the one in charge with dealing with all of this genocidal campaign. He was the one that America chose as his first employer, which might put him as perhaps the oldest of the demigods. He is said to be at the same stature in status as the other demigod children of America. I am not sure, I cannot say for sure that he is a child of America herself. It's still a possibility. Keep in mind that most of what I'm saying in this video is highly speculative. I'm just trying to piece the pieces together as best as I can. But from what I can gather from this video, from this trailer, Mesmer was chosen as the champion for this honorless purge that was inflicted in the name of the Golden Order. So in the end, he serves the Golden Order. He is a servant of the Golden Order, even though he's wearing serpents and his iconography is that of a serpent, which signifies betrayal or a betrayer in the lands between. He is still a servant, a ruthless servant of the Golden Order. And also throughout the same passage of the trailer, the same scene, you can see that most of the opponents that they face, most of the creatures that they purge, that they kill, were creatures with horns, with clothing that's very resemblance that of the omens, especially Morgoth and Moog. One of the creatures that they are fighting as well is also one that appeared in the gameplay trailer, and living up to his name, to his moniker as the Impaler. He impaled the same creatures blessed by the Crucible. The Crucible were an affront to the Golden Order, and this initial crusade, this initial purge, this initial impaling of these creatures might have been a way to open the path for the perfect ideology that would be built by the Golden Order. By the way, I mean perfectly in quotations because, like I said before, the Golden Order, its golden will, were very hypocritical in how they implemented their ideologies, especially when you consider what this trailer is showing. This might have been the first great conflict throughout the lands between. It is outside of the lands between, it is in the lands of shadow, but it is related to the origins of America, to the origins of her ambitions. So this might as well have been the first major successful conflict, first major successful war, if you can even call it that, if not as genocide, that America architecture, that America engineered in order to open her way to godhood. It is also important to note that this paint Mesmer as a really ruthless commander. It does not give the air of someone that schemes in the background behind a veil of secrecy. He is maintained in secrecy due to the nature of the conflict that he commanded, the conflict that he won for America. But you see him in the very front lines. He's actually taking action within the battle. He's not just commandeering it from a command post or behind politics. No, he is a general. He is a champion. You can see him here fighting the Crucible warriors. You can see him here with his soldiers fighting the battle, being ready to burn whatever opposition there is to the rule of America.
And so kindly Miquella would abandon everything. His golden flesh, his blinding strength, even his fate. But we are not deterred. We choose to follow. Will you walk with us?
This might be the confirmation that all of you who believe that Saint Trina and Miquella were one and the same, this is likely Trina. This is likely Miquella. One in the same. And after this point, there's not much lore for us to identify within this trailer. It's still, like I said, an amazing trailer, an amazing cinematic with spectacular music, spectacular narrative, something that you would expect from Software. All that we see later are very familiar faces, familiar NPCs, all of which have shown up in the first trailer for Shadows of the Erdtree. All of them showing up in the trailer, also all of them in here as well, confirming or perhaps suggesting that all of them, without exception, are followers, or at the very least believe somewhat in the words of Miquella, are somewhat loyal to what he believes, what he is trying to enforce, what he is trying to bring towards the lands of shadow. More than that would simply be highly veiled speculation with no basis or no confirmation, no concrete basis of what is actually happening. So I will end this video right here saying that this trailer is amazing. I cannot wait to play this game in a month's time. It's gonna stop the gaming world. This DLC might be one of the greatest DLC ever made. Hopefully that's the case. From Software's quality, its consistent of quality has been maintained for over a decade now, and I doubt that they will disappoint us, since this trailer definitely did not disappoint me. This has been the Discount Russian. I hope you have enjoyed. Consider liking and subscribing for more gaming content like this. I hope you all have enjoyed. I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you later. Peace.